Rover 200 convertible might be very, very me. This is the car I wish was me, that I want to be very me. Well, okay, not the yuppie from the 80-bit, that's a bit obnoxious, but, you know, Porsche 911, cool. If, like me, you grew up in the 1980s, you probably had a poster of one of these on your bedroom wall, like I did. The only difference between this car and my bedroom wall is that was a red Targa, and this is a black convertible. This is a 1983 3-litre SC convertible. This is the very tail end of the Series 2 of the 911 production, and the Series 2s were built from 1978 until 1983. In fact, the second generation of 911 came out 5 years after the first time Porsche tried to kill the 911, and this was the second time Porsche tried to kill the 911. At the same time this was out, they were still pushing the 928 and hoping that was going to take over as their flagship, but the buying public were having none of it, and they still adored the 911. They didn't start building the convertible until October 1982, so there's only about a year of production, and in total only 4,096 were made. It uses a fabric, manually folding roof with a zip-out rear window. It's actually quite hard work for such an expensive car. This car was built in June 1983 and it's pretty well spec'd. It came with the Fuchs 16-inch alloys from the factory and the optional front and rear spoilers taken from the 3.3 turbo. It has the front spoiler and rear whale tail from the 3.3 litre turbo, which you could option onto the convertible models. This car is currently for sale with Anthony Godin in Kent, so big thanks to them. Check out their website below and find more details online. This red and black interior could not be more 1980s if it rolled up its suit sleeves and sung a Wham song, but it is beautiful and I love it. With this red carpet and door cards and the two-tone seats, it's really in your face, but it looks good and it really suits the car's personality. Let's face it, this is the car that shouted, "Look at me!" back in the 80s. It was an expensive car. This was $35,000 in 1983, so a lot of money, and you wanted people to know you'd spent it. The dashboard design is very 80s and very German. The switchgear is basically thrown at the dashboard and wherever it stuck is where it went. You have lighter socket, a fog light switch, just randomly by the radio. One is for your handbrake and your brake fluid, and then ventilation next to the, well, I guess this would have been a Becker or some kind of other radio. These central air vents are hilariously tiny, but they do blow, so it's not completely wasted, and the heater is actually really effective in this car. There's a hidden ashtray/litter bin. And something that always puzzles me with VWs and Porsches of this era are these heater controls down in between the seats, which I never really know what I'm supposed to do with. Put about halfway and forget about it. Surprisingly for an 80s car, there's a lot of room in the door pockets, which is not the biggest selling point of a sports car, but it's nice to know you got it. Every time you get into a Porsche, the thing that really strikes you is this dashboard. And when you look at the steering wheel, the first thing you see is not the speedometer, but the tachometer. And you can see exactly what that flat 6 is revving to. And it goes to 7,000, redlining at 6.2. As well as that on the dashboard, you've also got your fuel and oil tank, so you can see how much oil is in the engine, which is great. Your water temperature and your Druckpress, which I guess is oil pressure, and your speedometer, and a big clock, a really big clock actually. The driving position is quite good. The seats are really supportive. They feel very nice, holding you tight in these side bolsters. The steering wheel's just the right position, and the gear shift is ideal for throwing it through the box. However, it's not completely perfect. The pedals, the clutch and brake are hanging from above, and the accelerator is floor mounted, are all quite a way to the left, so it takes a moment to kind of attune yourself to where your feet need to be. And every 911 of this era I've ever driven has had fingernail marks in the top of the dashboard because there's barely a finger's width between the steering wheel and the top of the dash. It's just one of those weird idiosyncrasies of these cars. I've never known why they didn't just give you, I don't know, just move the dials slightly further away from you, or just move this cowling back a bit or something. There's really no need for it, but it's just the way these cars are. You spend a lot of money in this car, so you get electric windows, but the mirrors are completely manual. And apparently the passenger door mirror is a really sought after option on 80s 911s. I never knew that until today. And there's a pop-out rack for your cassettes. Now, I don't even have a cassette player in most of my cars, but I still want one. There aren't many controls to talk about on the dashboard. To the right of the steering wheel, down here you've got your ignition barrel, your emergency flashers, and your headlight switch. And up here you have the tiniest, most ridiculous switch possible for your wiper delay, I think, and below it a tiny rocker button for the headlamp washers. Considering this car cost as much as a small house back when it was new, you'd expect more than 6 buttons in the dashboard. Incredibly, there are even rear seats that are just about usable, if you're smaller than I am. The The back seats fold down so you've got a nice flat surface for luggage and stuff. Very thoughtful. Check out these beautiful Pioneer speakers, they're so of their time. If the mood should take you to open the boot or the bonnet or the boot or the frunk or whatever, I don't know, you know what I mean, you'll find that because this was a German car, left-hand drive originally, both of the things you need to find are here. Here for the boot, engine, deck lid, and here for the front trunk thing, boot lid. That has got a lock in it, so if someone does bust into the car, they can't nick your gear out the front, and this is in the door jamb, so if the door's locked, again, they can't nick your engine. And unlike later versions, like post-2000, where this whole front end is actually really quite deep and you can put a lot of stuff in there, this generation, it's about this deep, so you're kind of limited as to what you can take with you on holiday. Pack light or use the back seat. Now, with that WizKid and the NSU, I do seem to be doing a lot of rear-engine cars, but this time, instead of saying like a Porsche, I can say on this Porsche. With the end of the Series 1 911 production, Porsche had decided that the old 2.7 litre had gone as far as development would take it, so a new engine was needed, and it was this, the 930, the 2,994cc flat six, air-cooled as everyone knows famously, and it's identifiable if you open the bonnet, or the boot, whatever, by counting the blades on this fan, and also by the fact its number is written on the fan cowling. But it should be an 11 blade fan. If it's not, it's wrong. It's a smaller number, it's the earlier engine. If it's a bigger number, I don't know what you've got, but the sound it makes and the way it delivers the power is unique to this car. Let's have a quick listen. Right now, I am driving what was in its day the fastest open-top car, production car, in the world. Although the official figure for the top speed is 140, on a closed VW test track back in 1983, Porsche engineers got this, or one of these, to 146 miles an hour. And that apparently is because the soft top with the roof shut has a lower drag coefficient than the hard top. As a coefficient, I think it's a 0.030 or 0.035 drag on the convertible, and it's 0.4 or 0.04 on the coupe, which I find amazing. But then I'm easily amused, so hey. I don't know what teenage me was expecting looking at that poster of a 911 SC Targa on my bedroom wall, but the driving experience really isn't quite how I imagined it. And even though I had the poster, I wasn't a big Porsche fanboy and never really, got it until finally I got to drive one of these things a while ago. And suddenly, it all made sense. Now this is a manual car, and I don't just mean the gearbox, I mean everything. And what I mean by that is that it needs a person interacting with it to make it come alive. You've got zero driver aids in this thing. If you mess up, you're on your own. The first thing you feel when you climb into one of these cars is how really heavy everything is. Modern cars just make everything way too easy. This, on the other hand, makes you work for it. The pedals are heavy under your foot. It takes a bit of effort to hit the clutch down. And the gearbox itself, you're not going to daintily flip that through on a finger. You've got to actually work. It all feels incredibly mechanical. That clunk clunk from one gear to the next. And at parking speeds, the steering is really quite heavy. Although once you get on the move, it lightens up incredibly. Now 10 years ago or so, I was all set to buy one of these because back in the, well, a coupe version anyway, because back in the early noughties, you could pick up a 911 SC coupe for under 10 grand for quite a tidy one. And I was all set to do that. And I took out a loan to do that, in fact. I was so dead set on having one of these things. Unfortunately, something else needed the money, and in the meantime, money didn't get any cheaper, and these got a lot more expensive. And if I'd spent 10 grand on a 911 back then, it'd be worth about 30,000 now. Oh, how I laugh about that. Now, it is the second day of spring today, so I have got the roof down, although it's a tiny bit chilly for the roof down, but the heater in this car is really, really good. You won't be surprised to hear this rides fairly firmly. It is a sports car after all, but it is actually rather comfortable. These seats hold you really tightly. They're very supportive as well. The headrest is a long way back though. But even though 35 years ago this was 140 mile an hour supercar, you know, the cream of the cream, there's not much more potent than a 911, apart from a 911 turbo. It's very easy to drive, very comfortable as well. The ride on this car is just amazing. It's so comfortable. You can really road trip this thing a long way, but at the same time, the grip and handling are incredible. So if you wanted to track day it, you could have a great laugh with that as well. This really is a car for everything. I set out today thinking I'd really enjoy driving this car, but ultimately I would really prefer the coupe hardtop. But this has been so much fun. I think the great thing with the roof down, you can hear that engine so much better. That noise is just great. You just want to keep on dropping a gear and accelerating a little bit just to hit that rev. Oh, it's marvellous. I have bashed my knuckles into that dashboard several times on this trip already today. One thing about everything being so close to you, the steering wheel, is it's all very easy to grab hold of. Thanks for watching again. I really appreciate you sitting there and listening to me drone on and waffle about these old cars. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please hit like if you have. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already. And there's a little circle down in the bottom corner down there somewhere. If you hit that, it'll tell you next time I put something else up. And honestly, I've no idea what it will be. I'm working on the Mercedes at home at the moment, so probably there'll be some Mercedes action happening very soon.